Hello everyone, my name is Pacha and welcome back to a new episode of Tiergarten Edelwald. And before we begin, a little bit of a word of warning. If my voice sounds a little bit weird today, it is because I sadly caught a little bit of a flu over the weekend, which is very unfortunate. It happens when you work at schools that you sometimes catch some illnesses from the kids and colleagues over there, from other teachers. So I'm on the way to getting better, but sometimes it still comes up, and just so you know, if anything sounds weird in today's video, it's because of that. But yeah, we are back with a new video after 2 weeks, as announced. Videos for the next foreseeable future will come every second week, every other week, because of my real life work as a teacher, which requires a little bit more time of me to at the moment. So I have to put the YouTube thing a little bit to the side, which is of course because it's a hobby. But I already talked about it in my last 2 videos. So if you want to hear more about the reasons, things like that, look into that. Today we are going to talk about our newest arrival or newest animal to our zoo, which is the Tasmanian tiger, as you already saw from the thumbnail. And if you have been on with my channel with me for a little bit longer, then you already know that I've built for the Tasmanian tiger in the past, and that was when we actually got that animal together with the Oceania pack, which I think was last year or 2 years ago. I can't remember anymore. It feels like Planet Zoo's packs fly by in an instant. So we already built for this animal back when that pack came out that introduced them, but then it was basically a special episode, a one-time episode, of one build episode, not a dedicated build for a zoo or anything. It just was something yet you can download from the workshop, so you can still download that exhibit for Tasmanian tigers from the workshop. It was a very cool exhibit, designed or inspired by an exhibit in real life New Zealand, I think it was. So from where Tasmanian tigers are from, New Zealand, other side of the world, and there it was from a zoo. I exactly can't remember which zoo it was anymore, but it was basically inspired recreation of that place, which was really cool. Highly recommend watching it if you want even more Tasmanian tiger inspiration. But today we are not going anywhere down under for inspiration. No, we're actually going up to the northern part of Europe, because the exhibit we are building here today is not inspired by anything from down under. It's not inspired by anything from Tiergarten Schönbrunn, for first time in a long time actually. No, this exhibit is inspired by the zoo of Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark, which I visited a couple months ago in the summer of this year. I was there with my girlfriend, which was our yearly holiday, our city holiday basically, where we visited that awesome city. And then there we also, of course, went to the zoo of Copenhagen, as it is basically the job of every Planet Zoo enthusiast to also visit zoos in their holidays of that certain country. Same thing I did for Schönbrunn. And despite me not liking the zoo in its fullest, because it had some outdated stuff, I think I already talked about that back then when I just came back from Copenhagen. There was one area that I really liked, and that was their Tasmania area. Dedicated area for Tasmania, and of course the star of that area was the Tasmanian devil, not the Tasmanian tiger. That one is extinct, sadly enough, but the Tasmanian devil, one of the I think it's the only carnivorous marsupial that still exists on this planet, so really unique species. And this area was really cool. It was very modern. I think it wasn't that old, but I sadly don't know when it was built. Probably someone who is from Denmark could tell that what it was constructed, but it was very modern with the boardwalk you just saw me construct for the guests that basically cuts right through the exhibit. Of course, but the main exhibit is on this side. On the other side, it's just basically the holding and separation areas, as well as the backstage area for the devils. This is the main areas, together with this lower porch part over here, this lower deck area over here, where you can basically get on your eye level, ground level with the Tasmanian devils, which is super cool. In reality, I think it is not that much that the whole habitat is sunken down, but more so that the boardwalk is raised up a little bit. I'm not sure how it was. In some part, I looked on Google Maps, on Google Earth, how it was, because luckily the whole zoo of Copenhagen is on Google Earth, on the street views. You can basically walk through the whole zoo on street view if you want to do that. But I think that it wasn't really clearly shown there how it was, and I can't really remember when I was there how, if it was raised or if the habitat was lowered. Either way, it works both ways in this exhibit that I'm building here, which is not a totally copy of this exhibit, because people who watched my stream saw me making the measurements for this exhibit, and usually this exhibit and the surrounding area, which is the Tasmanian themed area, is much bigger. It has not much bigger, but it is certainly a little bit bigger. But I had to shrink it down in some parts, make some room for other areas, because the area we are building in here right here, which is opposite to the Somali wild donkey and the Asian water buffalo, which we built in the last episodes for, this area is usually in the real zoo of Schönbrunn. It is, I think, a pond for some waterfowl, definitely pelicans at least. And then I think there's also an exhibit for reindeer, as well as the insect house of the zoo. And since I wanted to do something different in this area, I didn't want to build for reindeers, because the reindeers in Plan Zoo are ugly. We don't really have waterfowl apart from swans in here, and an insect house with the exhibits we have in game doesn't really work with the size that the real one has. So I decided to use that inspiration, because I really wanted to build that part of Copenhagen Zoo, because it really, I don't know if you have that, if you go to a zoo and you see one area or a part of a zoo that really sticks to your brain, that really sticks in your memory, because it was so awesome or so ugly. Both ways work, but it was so memorable that it stays with you. And this was the Tasmanian area for me, because it was also the first time ever for me to see Tasmanian devils, which aren't really that common in Europe. So it was really special for me to see them, and was really cool. So I wanted to include that, but then I noticed that the real dimensions of that area from Copenhagen don't really fit into that space, which is due to me making a mathematic error, because first I thought they would fit, because I measured them before, but I measured something wrong. So they don't actually fit there, which is a shame. So I had to cut some parts out. Especially I had to cut out the really cool Australian aviary that is adjacent to this, which was built later, but is part of that area, which is a super cool aviary with lots of Australian birds, but also rock wallabies, which are super rare in Europe. Lots of cool stuff in there. I sadly had to cut that thing out. So we will only include, for people who know this, we will only include the open areas of the exhibit, which include the habitat for the Tasmanian devils, of course, the main area, then an exhibit which is, I think, for Tasmanian kangaroos or wallabies of some kind, which I will change out for the red kangaroo. The red kangaroo is one we have in the game, the giant kangaroo, which will be a walkthrough area. And I checked, I think a walkthrough area for red kangaroos is doable. And then we will have an exhibit for wombats. For the thing we have in game is the short-nosed wombat or hairy-nosed wombat. I have to check again, but these will be the animals we have in here. So less often Tasmanian area, more of in general Australia, Tasmania area, which I think is still totally fine. And talking about what we are building here at the moment, you see these rocks here now, which are part of the real exhibit. That is that the glass parts are separated by these rock areas, by these rocky fake faux rock areas to give this more natural feeling. And the color that I choose here won't be the final color. I went with the classic, try to emulate the classic red rock, the red sands and red rocks of the Australian desert. But later decided that it didn't look right. It didn't look the way I wanted to be. And then I looked also at the real life inspiration again. And then I thought about, what is the environment Tasmanian devils live in? And they don't live in the desert. They don't live where you have these red rocks. At least not mainly. They live more in the forest and in the more tropical grasslands and the temperate forests and things like that. So you wouldn't have these brightly red desert rocks in there. You would just mostly have what we in the game has as temperate rocks, as tiger rocks, these more greenish grayish rocks. So as they are this color now at the moment, but later during a cut they will change color to what they are, what you saw in the intro cinematic and on the screenshots that I posted. If you looked at them first, they will change color to that. It was a try. I tried to make it, but it didn't really work out, and I decided to change it. But yeah, this exhibit is also separate, as you can see here in the middle. We have two different areas because we have 4 Tasmanian devils in this exhibit, 2 males, 2 females, similar to what the Zoo of Copenhagen has. They also have 2 breeding pairs, at least I think these are 2 breeding pairs. And in order to, of course, separate them to get rid of tensions, so for example, if there are tensions in the group, you can separate them in 2 different exhibits. Also, the other side, the backstage exhibits, basically the separation exhibits, are also 2 different ones. I think in the real zoo they have even 4 different exhibits on the other side of the pathway, not the main ones, but the other side you see in the background here. I think there are 4 of them to separate them. I couldn't really do that because of the space issues I had and the changes I had to do, so I stick with the 2. I hope it's still okay. Plan Zoo itself says you can keep them in groups. I don't really know the specific of Tasmanian devil societies and social areas and social habits. So if you know any more about that and say, hey, it might be better to only keep 2 of them, then I probably will think about changing it. But I have to say, they are, I don't know if I made my exhibit too big, because it shouldn't be too big. I really tried to follow the measurements I took on Google Earth. I even made it smaller, but the Tasmanian devils in here look absolutely tiny. When I was in Copenhagen, they didn't look that tiny. I don't know. Maybe it was because they were closer to the glass. Might be a reason, but they definitely looked bigger in real life. So I don't know if I messed something up or if Planet Zoo messed something up. Probably Planet Zoo has a habit of making some species way too small, or smaller than they are in real life. Cough, cough. The American bison is absolutely tiny compared to the European bison. And it should be at least the same size, if not bigger. So maybe Planet Zoo also messed something up here, and they should be bigger because they look really tiny in this exhibit, and that's why I went with 4 instead of 2, because with only 2 I felt like they would get totally lost in the exhibit. You wouldn't really see them. Later you will see, or you already saw in the intro makes that there on one side there's a lot of grass, one side of the habitat is really, really overgrown, which is also how it is in real life. And since they are very low to the ground, you absolutely sometimes don't see them. You don't see them, which of course is nice for the animal. They get a little bit more of privacy. It's a very open exhibit. Guests can see them from all sorts of angles. But you want to give your animals some privacy, some room to escape. But I don't know if that is a trick to just let the grass grow bigger or higher than the animal itself, so that you can't see them anymore. Because on one side you also want to see the animals, you want to see where they are. Also, as a keeper, you want to know where your animals are, in order to not lose them. So I don't know really if what the issue is here. Might be something on my part, but anyway, it is what it is. The habitat should be big enough. It is big enough for 4 of them, space-wise. And maybe it just felt as tiny to me in the beginning. Maybe they will grow literally on me once some time passes. But yeah, finishing up finally after 14 minutes all the barrier stuff for the exhibit. I think this is the main part of the whole build here, to have all the barriers in place, and this is the biggest work zone. We finally now go over to the shelter building, or what I assume is the shelter building. I think it is a shelter, and it's a very interesting one. It has a very modern design. You will see in a moment. It reminded me a little bit of a classical water tower that you will see in the Australian outback or something like that, but with some very modern elements. A lot of wood, which is very nice, and you can't really see into it. I will also not build an interior for this shelter over here. We will reuse that style later for the kangaroos, because the kangaroos in Copenhagen have the same shelter, or a similar, not the same shelter, but a shelter that looks exactly like this one, just that this one is open for the public, so people can look into the shelter and see the indoor area for the kangaroos. So we will have a version of that, a smaller version, though, that you can see into. I think you can also partially go into it, because the walkway for the guest into the exhibit leads through that shelter area, or at least a part of it. But yeah, this is it is a round shelter, as you can see with me using the mud pallet technique, which is very interesting. And then you have lots of these wooden beams, these wooden sticks around it, which are super cool. I had some problems making it, because some stuff didn't really align the way I wanted to align it. You see me here, I had to try again, because there were some issues with the alignment of this building. I eventually did it in the end. It isn't perfect. I wish it would be better, but I couldn't be bothered to do it again. It took so much time to create it. There was so much cutting involved in recording this. You see here, this is where the second version of this will go for the kangaroos. This one is only for the Tasmanian devils, as well as the wombats. At least in my version. I don't know in the real life version if the wombats have also the indoor area in here. Might be the case, I don't know. I will make it the indoor area. So be it how it is. Maybe someone who has more knowledge into the Zoo of Copenhagen can let me give some infos on that, what the deal with that is. But yeah, very simple doors here, nothing too special. I just plot down some metal bars and the metal shield to basically make the illusion of a door, and then this is our indoor area with 2 separate entrances for the 2 separate areas in front of it, which is basically how you separate these animals. But yeah, after we finish this whole area, which will probably take 3 episodes, 2 episodes again, we are mostly finished with the whole zoo. There are some small areas to do. You saw there for a brief moment to the side, you saw some construction happening here, there. You also saw what looks like a crane, and that is the area that goes off from the rhino house, the rhino park, which is also adjacent to this area. And this is the whole side, adjacent to the mountain, so similar to our Himalayan area further back in the zoo. And I decided for the time being to make that area a construction zone. So during the stream, we just plopped down a lot of construction materials. We dug some holes, we placed some vehicles from the workshop, as well as a huge construction crane. And the idea behind that is that since this zoo is so big, my FPS are going down slowly but surely, but I still want to have a finished zoo in the end. I don't want to have another Raven Creek fiasco, where the zoo isn't finished, or where there are still lots to do. So I decided to make that area on the side. You have a later showed also in the real life part for a moment. I decided to make that a construction zone, so that there is some construction going. They are building new habitats, new areas, but for the time this zoo is frozen in, because all zoos we build in this game are basically frozen in time. This is a construction zone, there are no habitats there, and this means once I finish everything I wanted to finish, and I still have FPS left, then I can go back to that construction area and build something there, take out the construction materials and the stuff I built, I place down, and make them actual habitats. I actually have ideas what I would want to do with this area if I can. But if I notice that FPS are too bad, I can't really do anything about it, and I just want to finish up the zoo, just want to throw it on the workshop for you guys and leave it as it is, then I can still do that, because this area is filled out. There is stuff there. It's not something incredible pretty, but there is something, there is construction going on, and you can imagine that there would be something. And if you as guys want to finish that, then you can. But yeah, you saw me now placing down this buffalo skull here from, I think, Romano's fossil pack or something like that. I have to look it up again for what it was. But you saw me on this buffalo skull, and this is actually a little bit of a Easter egg from my time at Zoo Copenhagen, because when I was there at Zoo Copenhagen, and in that area, that spot of this habitat for the Tasmanian devil, there was a skull of a donkey there. And I know from a member of my community who was in Copenhagen Zoo a couple days before I went there, that this actually was a fully decapitated head of a donkey that the Tasmanian devils got in their habitat as enrichment and as, of course, as food. And when I visited, this head was already chewed down and eaten down to the bone. It was just the skull. I would post a picture here, but better not upset YouTube. But if you're on my Discord, let me know and I can post a picture there. But yeah, there was a fully skeletalized head of a donkey in this exact spot over there, and I wanted to kind of capture that. Sadly, I didn't found a horse skeleton or something like that on the workshop, and I'm definitely too bad with all these tiny pieces to make it my own. So I just took this buffalo bison skull over here as a little bit of an homage, because I could also imagine that they would just throw in also a cow skull over there in the same way they did with the donkey, to give them something to eat as a little bit of enrichment, basically. But yeah, I will now leave you to the rest of the speed build of the last couple minutes and things like that, with some nice music, because I already noticed my throat is killing me due to my sickness, and I don't want to don't overwork it, basically. So I will leave you to the music, and then I will see you in the end with our real-time part where we look at the finished exhibit. Right, and here we are now in our real-time part. And before we look at our newest addition to the zoo, we have to do one naming today, and that one comes from Bacon Bit Builder, who first asked if we could name the female raccoon dog, but we already did that. I just forgot to change the list, so that was an error on my side. So they asked if we instead could name the female jaguar Juniper, without Juniper. Why pronounce it that weirdly? But that is a wonderful, lovely name, and we name that. They don't gave a reason for it, so we just stick with it. And before we look at our Tasmanian devils, I just want to give you a quick overview of this construction site. Basically, as I said, nothing fancy, nothing really in depth, just some construction materials, some holes dig in the ground, a crane over there, some buildings and some crates, just to give that illusion and idea that there is construction happening. But yeah, let's plop down right here on this side next to the buffaloes, which are lying in the shade over there. And here we have now our Tasmanian devil exhibit, and we can already see them there in the background. As I said, they are really tiny. I don't know, in the real zoo they look bigger. I don't know what the reason for that is. But let's go that way around. As I say, we always have some glass viewing in between, so you get a lot of different views onto the exhibit, onto the animals, which I think is really lovely. You also have some benches over here, so these are meant to be benches where you can sit down. You can also look at the buffaloes over here. Hello. And then you come over this corner over here. Nothing much there on this side yet. Here you can get a look into one of the sleeping dens. There's another one on the other side. And then you can walk onto this boardwalk right into the devil area, devil exhibit basically, which I find is really cool. Later you also get a wonderful view over onto the kangaroos from here, and of course the wombat. And if you want to get even more up close to them, you can go down here, and then if you're lucky, you can see them from here. Yeah, they're really tiny, I don't know. But you can get a really up close view onto them from here, which is super cool. I really love them. They're really a unique and cool animal. I love to have been able to build for them again. So yeah, it's very nice, and it was really also really nice they are very loud, to see them in real life for the first time. Yeah, I did that. I built in the end of the video. You probably saw that in the speed build. And that is basically meant to be the fake keeper axis. The real one is hidden in the rocks down here, but this is the one that they also have in Copenhagen, where you can basically go on this platform, and then from here you can step down into the exhibit. Of course, not when the devils are in here. That would be a little bit dangerous, but this is meant to be the keeper axis. And same thing on this side with the sleeping den here. You can already see working as intended, with one of them sleeping in here, and then it just loops around. We just have to place some foliage over here to hide it a little bit, so it's definitely still a little bit work in progress basically. But yeah, I can hear them. I don't know if you can hear them on during my recording over here, but they are definitely audible. But yeah. This is our Tasmanian devil exhibit from the Zoo of Copenhagen, and our newest addition to the Zoo of Edelwald, to the Tiergarten of Edelwald. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you are not too mad about me that this is now a bi-weekly format, that I now have to put up episodes out every 2 weeks. And yeah, then I will see you in 2 weeks again, with the next part of our Australian area, basically what it is now. And I hope until then you have a great time, you stay safe, and yeah, I see you in the next episode. Bye bye everyone.